there are large questions that we should all ask ourselves as human beings. And questions include, what is my destiny?
And that diamond, in that is a great diagram there, Doug. It's going to kind of stay here. The topic today is, as part of Life by Design program, life lived intentionally is better lived. And in order to live life by design, not by default, you got to be able to lead yourself. And that is the topic. That is the focus. That is our speaker today, Doug. Doug, welcome to the show. We truly appreciate you joining us today. And he contributed a lot on the subject of self-management. We all, no matter what our position is in the company or at home, we got to be able to understand what it means in terms of self-management, because that's what it takes to really be a person who takes ownership. So, Doug, before taking too much of time here, and I am just so pleased to have you here, an author, an entrepreneur, and an impact maker. Welcome to the show, and over to you, Doug.
Thank you very much, Sonny, for that great introduction. Appreciate it so much. Thank you all for being here. I'm very honored to be here this morning with all of you. Unlocking Greatness, a journey to personal and professional mastery. So to unlock this question, I thought of other questions, and the other questions that I came up with were, what is greatness? Why should we pursue it, and how should we pursue it? And to unpack those questions, I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about things that I learned in my own journey, share how the idea of greatness relates to leadership and self-leadership, and then give you some very important models and practical approaches to unlocking your own personal greatness. So my story began in 1990. I joined the core team of, as Sonny mentioned, the Morningstar Company. And our founder, Chris Rufer, had a vision of a very high-volume, high-tech food processing company here in Northern California. So I joined the core team in February of 1990. And we were working out of a tiny little farmhouse here in Northern California on a dusty canal bank. And one day Chris came into the farmhouse and said, I'd like to have a meeting of colleagues and talk about how to organize the company. I've got some ideas about that. And we said, sure. So we met at night in a dusty trailer on the job site. And we sat around in a circle on folding chairs, and Chris handed out a document called the Morningstar Team Principles. And they basically boiled down to two things. The first principle was that human beings should not use force or coercion against other human beings. And if you think about that principle, it's the foundation of all law everywhere in the world, whether you're in India, the US, the Philippines, or anywhere else in the world. Every law against assault, battery, and theft, burglary, and murder, and all the rest is based on that principle. And the second principle was that human beings should keep the commitments they make to each other. In other words, if you say you're going to do something, you do it. And so that's also foundational to law. Contract law would mean nothing if parties didn't honor their commitments. So we discussed and debated these two principles for a couple of hours, and the end of the evening, we just looked around the circle at each other and realized we had no objections to these principles. They were self-evident. And so when we filed out of that trailer, we were a self-managed enterprise. And so this was early March of 1990. We had a lot of work to do. So we had to hire hundreds of people to operate the factory and drive the trucks. We had thousands of acres, hectares of tomatoes coming up out of the ground, up and down the state of California. We had vital equipment arriving on ocean cargo freighters from Parma, Italy, waiting to go through the Panama Canal. And we had hundreds of contractors on the job site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, constructing and fabricating and welding and putting up buildings. Finally, July 16th of 1990, we turned on the factory. We produced 90 million pounds of industrial tomato paste for the world market, about 45 million kilograms. We changed the cost structure of our entire industry, and we did it all without a single human boss, because when you adopt the principle of not using force, it means that no one has any command authority over anyone else. Everything is accomplished by request and response. No one can tell another person to stop doing X and start doing Y. No one has any titles or command authority. No one can fire anyone else. Everything is accomplished by request and response, and yet we built this $27 million, would be $54 million today, high-tech, high-volume tomato processing company in record time, changed the cost structure of our entire industry without a single human boss. No titles, no vice presidents, no managers, no supervisors, no command authority of any kind. We became a company of thousands of employees, now a billion-dollar company, and never deviated from our two core principles: don't use force and keep commitments. So people found this interesting. I can share a picture of the largest factory. This is the largest factory in the Morningstar trio. This is Liberty Packing in Los Banos, California. It's just a few miles down the road from me. People became interested in how this works. How can this possibly work? It just seems too good to be true. A billion-dollar company, the largest tomato processor in the entire world, thousands of employees, and no human bosses, no force, no coercion, based on keeping simple commitments to each other. So what I started exploring was, how does this work, and how do individuals lead themselves and lead each other without designated leaders? And how do individuals pursue greatness and unlock their own personal greatness and develop their own personal mastery? These questions were profound, and we were being asked these questions by lots of people. So in exploring this, I looked at traditional leadership systems and learned that companies around the world spend about $400 billion a year on leadership development. So at Morningstar, we were very fortunate in 2013 to meet probably one of the most influential and powerful thinkers in the idea of unlocking personal greatness, personal mastery, and personal leadership. One of the greatest thinkers in this area that the world has ever known. And his name is Dr. Peter Kestenbaum. And I'll share a link to the website for Peter. Morningstar had a Self-Management Institute symposium in 2013. And I invited Peter Kestenbaum to attend, and he graciously accepted my invitation. And he came to our symposium, and he was completely delightful and engaging, and shared his depth of experience and thought. And we became best of friends. He became my best friend. And we were friends until last December, when he sadly passed away at the age of 96. But a little bit of an introduction to Peter. Peter grew up in Nazi Germany. When he was 6 years old, he was face to face with Adolf Hitler on parade in Berlin. He found that a profoundly frightening and scary experience. His family was Jewish, so Peter and his mother and father fled Germany just before the Holocaust, and they moved to Venezuela, Caracas. where Peter grew up and went to school. And a very intelligent young man. At the age of 16, Peter went to Stanford University and pursued degrees in philosophy and studied music and theology and physics at the same time. He went to Harvard and got a master's degree, then Boston University, got his PhD, met some of the great philosophers of the day, and went to San Jose State, where he taught for 34 years. He was voted the best professor in the state of California. And I still get messages from his people who were students of his during those years, and they talk about how profoundly he affected their lives, and that their lives are better as a result of having taken his class. He had a profound impact on people. They told me that in a class of 100 students, every student felt like he was talking directly to them as an individual. So Peter became my best friend over the last decade, and I was able to spend time with him at his home here in Northern California and have deep, long, lengthy conversations about life and leadership and unlocking greatness. So I'd like to share some of those secrets with you because they were profound, and I still am privileged to share them and teach them to leaders and companies around the world to this day. So I'll share a quick picture. This is Peter and myself at Peter's home in Carmel. He's was a sprightly, extremely sharp man right up until the end of his life. As I mentioned, he passed away in December at the age of 96. Until a couple of years ago, he was still working full time. And so Peter has inspired me so much that I have no intention of ever retiring. I'm going to work right up until my last breath um, because I love what I do. And one of the secrets to life and greatness is figuring out what you're good at and doing it and loving it at the same time. So I'm going to share Peter's model of self-leadership and the pursuit of greatness and how to unlock those things. And it starts with a model called the leadership diamond. So the leadership diamond is, as you can imagine, a very simple diamond. That's all it is. And Peter was inspired to come up with this idea when he was in Scandinavia one day in a plaza, and he was looking up at the four flags flying at the four corners of this plaza, and the idea for his leadership diamond came to him in a flash, instantaneously. And he said, that is the model of leadership that I want to share with the world. And so his leadership diamond starts at the bottom with the leadership attribute of courage. It starts with courage because, as Aristotle said a few thousand years ago, courage is the leadership attribute that makes all other leadership attributes possible. Courage is the starting point of leadership greatness. And courage is about one's inner will, one's inner willpower, one's inner drive. It's an internal characteristic. No one can see it. You either possess it and develop it, or you don't. It's a matter of free will. Courage is the ability to take stands that are unpopular. It's the willingness to defend people who aren't in the room. It's the willingness to have difficult conversations. It's the willingness to step forward and take initiative. It's inner drive, inner perseverance, inner strength, courage, the attribute that makes all other leadership attributes possible. And you might have seen the word anxiety in the corner. Anxiety is part of the human condition. I'd wager if we were to do a survey of this group and asked, is there anyone here who never feels anxiety? I'm guessing that very few people would raise their hand. Anxiety is a universal human characteristic. The trick with handling anxiety is to manage it in a way that propels you forward and doesn't paralyze you. Anxiety is the fuel for courage, another insight from Aristotle. It's the gasoline for courage. It's what makes courage possible. Anxiety is that little voice that says, you know what? Something doesn't look right in this situation. I need to speak up. I need to say something. I need to make a decision. I need to take some kind of action. Anxiety is the fuel for courage. It's something we should embrace. So, as you can imagine, there are four parts of this diamond, and courage is the starting point. But the second point of the diamond is the top. The top of the diamond is ethics, and ethics has two parts. So, ethics is about caring, kindness, compassion, nurturing, support, encouragement, and empathy. It's about other people. It's about caring for other people. If you don't have a heart for other people, life is a long, lonely road. You need to care about other people, and that is the point of ethics. However, ethics does have another aspect, and that is the simple aspect of right versus wrong. We know it's wrong to lie, cheat, and steal, and that we shouldn't do it, and we shouldn't tolerate other people doing that, doing those things. So ethics is deep caring and empathy, and it's about doing the right thing. You'll notice that ethics is opposite of courage, and courage is about one's inner state, one's inner self. Ethics is about other people. So it's an internal state versus an external state. Peter calls that a polarity. A polarity is something that we have to manage. Polarity management is a job of every human being and every leader and every human being in a self-managed organization and is a leader by definition. And everyone's a leader in their own personal lives by definition, because we're making gigantic life-changing decisions every day on our own without a boss. And no boss tells us who to date, who to marry, what to do for a living, whether to join an IT company or buy a house or have a family. We decide those things on our own without a boss. So everyone is a self-leader in some way, shape, or form. And so understanding the depth and importance of self-leadership is critical to being a successful human being and unlocking greatness. So, anxiety, courage, ethics, and managing polarity. Well, that leaves us with two more points on the diamond. The left side of the diamond is reality. So reality is about being clear and specific about the terrain upon which you're operating. It's having zero illusions. It's being crystal clear about the current state of things. It's understanding your constraints, your budgetary constraints, your resource constraints, your human constraints, your capacities and competencies, and understanding other people and their constraints. It's about understanding your own emotional state, the emotional states of others with whom you work. It's about also knowing your opportunities. What do the horizons look like? What are the opportunities that are available to you? Being crystal clear about the current state reality is essential to unlocking greatness for yourself and for others and for your organization and for leadership. Having zero illusions. That begs the question, what's the polarity for reality? Well, the polarity for reality is vision. It's about having a vision of a desirable future state into which you can invite, not coerce people to join you on a journey toward. It's about seeing what's possible in the future. In a self-managed organization, you can't force people to march toward a particular vision, but you absolutely can invite them. And there may be myriad short journeys on the way to a larger journey, and everyone has a potential to invite people on those journeys and invite people to join them toward a vision of a desired future state. So if reality is about the current state, vision is about an envisioned future state into which we can invite others and ourselves. I noted the idea here of free will in the corner, and free will is important to this entire discussion. And we know we have free will because, for example, we all chose to be on this call this morning, and we could have chosen to be someplace else, but we didn't. We chose to be here freely because human beings have free will. And the exercise of free will in the pursuit of greatness is absolutely essential in order to achieve the greatness that is available to every single human being. So where does that lead us? Well, we've got courage, ethics, reality, vision. If we can optimize all of those things, then we can actually pursue greatness and unlock greatness in ourselves and others. Greatness is inherently good. It's inherently good to pursue greatness. Why is that? It's good to pursue greatness because if we think about it, what's the opposite of greatness? The opposite of greatness is mediocrity. And who wants mediocrity for themselves or for anyone else in their lives? Nobody wants that. The opposite of mediocrity is greatness. It's inherently good. And greatness has nothing to do with fame, and it has nothing to do with money. It's just about doing what you love in a way that ennobles other people, the people around us, the people with whom we work, that creates value for the world and for other people, and that gives us happiness. That's what greatness is. There was an Academy Award-winning movie in 1966 called A Man for All Seasons. And in it, a young teacher asked his mentor why he felt like he couldn't become great as a mere teacher. And the mentor said, you absolutely can become great as a teacher. You're not going to be famous. You're not going to be rich. But who's going to know that I'm great? Well, God is going to know you're great. And the students that you teach and lift up are going to know you're great. And that's the state of greatness. And the young teacher thought about that and went off in the pursuit of greatness. So greatness is available to every single human being. Now, there were a couple other ideas here. One idea, in addition to polarity and free will and anxiety, is the idea of transcendence. And what does that mean? Well, Peters talks about transcendentalia. And what he means by that is that there are large questions that we should all ask ourselves as human beings. And questions include, what is my destiny? What is infinity? What is the universe all about? But what is my destiny is a very personal question, and it's a question that many of us don't ask ourselves from time to time, but should. As Peter says, unless you develop leadership depth, it's really hard to know what to do from day to day? How do you organize your life from day to day without understanding yourself at a very deep level? So that's the idea of the Transcendentalia, and asking the very deep questions about life and greatness and courage and free will and all the topics that I mentioned today. So there are great examples of individuals who have pursued greatness and unlocked greatness in themselves. And one of them is a wonderful gentleman that I met in India. He's the founder of Jaipur Rugs in India, and his name is Nand Kishore Chowdhury. And I was privileged to spend a week at his home and see what he's accomplished with his company there and unlocking greatness and the people with whom he works. His company makes high-end carpets for the world luxury market. He has about 40,000 women in small villages throughout India hand knotting carpets on hand looms in small teams. And he took out the middlemen so he can pay these weavers more money so they can actually lift up their own families for the first time economically. They are allowed to make their own designs. He's taking these women to design conferences in Europe where they're picking up design awards. The buyers of these carpets around the world travel to Jaipur, to the villages, to meet the people who actually hand wove their carpets personally. And they call him the Gandhi of the textile industry in India. And he's unlocked the power of personal greatness in tens of thousands of weavers throughout India through the power of self-management and personal greatness. So these concepts are available to everyone. It's possible for everyone to unlock greatness. Greatness is inherently good. It's available to everyone, and it starts with leadership depth, self-leadership, optimizing your own personal courage, your ethics, your caring and empathy, being clear about the current state of things, and then having a vision of a wonderful, big, bold, desirable future state into which you can walk. And with that, I'll tap the brakes and thank you very much for the opportunity to share.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doug. And that diamond in that is a great diagram there, Doug. It's going to kind of stay here. So all we have to do, if there's not too much to remember, not too much we can take away from this call, is that just keep that one diamond picture. And anxiety and courage, that is the foundation. It was at the bottom, right? Anxiety will come. How you embrace it and take that to build your courage. Always be more courageous during that feeling of anxiety, and having your character at the top, your ethics at the top, and then having that mindset, the reality and the vision, your life vision. So Life by Design is all about living intentionally, and that cannot happen without having a vision, having the reality check, which was on the right side, where you stand, where you want to go in life, and then always being courageous to have that gratitude, grit to go achieve that vision, which will be a byproduct, which will be the growth that we talk about. Gratitude, grit, growth. It will be byproduct. So just keep that image, team, and that infographic. That was so good, Doug. Thank you so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate you. And I will see you hopefully in San Jose in 2 weeks.
Great. Look forward. Thank you so much.